Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about boarding schools because currently I'm at one. So what better opportunity, right? So I want to add in a small disclaimer. I don't think that every child at a boarding school is unhappy. I don't think that everybody who goes to a boarding school is going to, go away from a boarding school with troubles and with problems. But, one experience does not encompass the many. I know that there are very many different types of boarding schools. I'm just going to be talking about what I've seen while living here. Also in this video, please excuse me if I'm squinting all the time. It's very bright and it's very warm out here. Currently I am at the boarding school Vishwashanti Gurukul, where I also reside besides my teaching practice, as you might have noticed, and I am in the Akash boarding hostel. So what are the advertised benefits of boarding schools? One of them, the first one that's always advertised for a boarding school, is that students learn how to be independent. Now, from what I've seen, to a certain extent, yes, but to the other, not at all. I would like to say, firstly, yes, because, we start with the positive things. Students learn how to manage their time very well. A lot of the students learn how to be disciplined in both, health routines such as cleaning themselves, showering regularly, brushing their teeth, making sure they eat enough food. But on the other hand, as far as responsibility goes, they have to be prompted a whole lot. I think that the sense of responsibility that's being advertised by schools, which is that students often take a lot of initiative on their own, both academically and for personal growth, I don't think that's present. And I think that's not the fault of the school, that's not the fault of, the system. But what I think simply happens is that they're kids. A lot of kids will take a lot of prompting, a lot of kids will take, a lot of prodding and poking basically until you reach that stage in your life where you're comfortable and it's nature to you to do things by yourself. So to go out and I don't know, experience things for yourself. I feel with a lot of the boarders, if they're not told explicitly what to do and when, they will just kind of freeze, and it'll take them very long to actually get to doing things. One of the examples that I could use for this is my exhibition group, the exhibition group that I'm leading in PYP. They're all sweethearts. So let me start off by saying I love them dearly, and they're really passionate about their topic as well. One of their slight issues is that if something needs to be done, they'll be too much in their head about it. Like, they'll ask what needs to be done, which is fine. Like, you can always ask for a task. Always ask for a task. I should keep that as my motto. But once they know it, for example, oh, can you make a header for our subject on the history of refugees? And first I'll go like, oh, okay, I'll do that. Wait, I need a pen. And they'll look around the room, and they'll say, but sir, I can't find a pen. And in that moment I tell them, be proactive, stand up, go find a pen. It's your exhibition, and you're going to be the one that, needs to make it and needs to present it. So if you can't find a pen, we can't make an exhibition. But that is one of the examples where that's not the kind of independence that's created. Secondly, what a lot of boarding schools, and this one as well, I keep glancing off into the dome whenever I mention this school, but the second thing that a lot of boarding schools advertise as well is real life experience, a preparation for real life, because in real life you're gonna need to be independent, you're gonna need to be social, you're gonna have to deal with many, other people around you. But um, it's also advertised that the children learn life skills, and they do. They have a session every week that's called Life Skills, and this is not even only for the boarders. This is also for just the day students. But it's very selective in what real life skills are, and maybe this is a cultural thing, because I wouldn't know. I don't know what the average life of an Indian individual looks like, especially if they have this sort of social standing. And with this social standing, I mean, you know, the school costs a lot of money. I would not be able to go here, so, you know, every child is pretty much from a very well-off family. But some of the... I need to go back to the life skills. The life skills include planning. It includes how to take care of yourself both mentally and physically, which I really, really love. Like, I love the amount of spiritual guidance and the mental guidance that this school has to offer in its daily routines. But they don't learn how to wash. They don't learn how to cook food. Students don't learn how to how to have adequate communication skills, and I think that these are very, very important life skills that I would definitely implement in any boarding school program were I the director of one. But I think that this is very important to give to a child, and especially if you're advertising for preparing for later life. Later life is going to consist more of talking to other adults than simply being around them, and it's going to consist more of, recognizing patterns within yourself besides, learning how to brush your teeth, because these children, they can do that. So a lot of this is already repetition of routines that they're used to, but outside of that, I'd say they're doing okay. They're doing okay in teaching life skills. Thirdly, what I wanted to talk about is socialization. One of the advertised things at a lot of boarding schools is increased socialization, which there is, because you're living with so many other children on a huge scale. However, Asha just popped by and she said the thing that just encompasses it perfectly, so I'm just gonna steal that tagline. Increased socialization does not mean increased social skills, because it's not about how often or on what big a scale. It's about how you deal with it. And one of the things that really actually poses a problem in my eyes, what I've seen with the boarders, is how they deal with conflict, because they get different advices from different teachers, different headmasters as well, and needless to say, I don't agree with all the advice, and just because I don't agree does not mean that the world's gonna stop turning, like, this is only a vlog to reflect. But one of the things that I've seen is, because all these children are living on such a big scale, there's so many of them, teachers will sometimes just resort to the quick fix in dealing with conflict. And these children will internalize that quick fix because an adult is telling them how to deal with conflict, and they will think that, because an adult is telling me this, it's definitely a good way. And one of the examples of this is when our students line up for prayer before dinner. Sometimes there's a conflict, but we need to hurry up and actually go to dinner. If one child says, "Oh, person A shoved me and they hit me," then a teacher might look at them and say, "Okay, just hit them back and then it's over with." And what this causes is, once the teacher leaves and the children are on their own, they will apply this, and whoever hits them, they will hit back, and this will just form into this continuous cycle of violence, where these children do not learn how to talk about, their feelings and how they should be solving things. And then on other moments, students are actually prompted to talk, but because it's often in such a hurry that the students are not being listened to, they don't learn how to effectively communicate, and they will often get caught up in their emotions, and they will either cry, or they will scream, or they will run away, and they will feel invalidated because they will have tried talking to a teacher, but because the teacher has so many other things to deal with, they don't feel heard. And when you don't feel heard, especially as a child, it's difficult to process, and you get that festering feeling of being wronged, and you see it in their faces as well. Like they just look so hurt. Spoiler alert, I don't believe in boarding schools anymore, because the premise of a boarding school is that you have a large amount of kids all stacked together, and I don't think that there's any way to give these children the individual attention that they need, because they're always going to be competing for the headmaster's attention and affection, and they're always going to be stuck with a lot of other kids that are growing and picking up both bad and good coping mechanism, but more often than not bad ones, because the bad ones get, they slip through the net and they get perpetuated. It's actually very rough. It's very rough for me to see that certain children who want to do good so badly, but the headmaster or whoever's around will see a snapshot of their bad behavior, and sometimes they get publicly called out. They get publicly called out, and they will get called a bad child, and I don't believe in that. I'm firmly against public shaming. I don't think that this is a good pedagogical method whatsoever. I think it bears more negative consequences than good. I could give plenty of examples, but quite frankly, you can Google it, you can do the research. It's just not good for children. It's hard. I gotta admit, being at a boarding school 24/7, it's hard in different ways. One of the ways is, I never get privacy. Like, the only reason I get privacy is when I'm in my boarding, and that means I'm completely alone. And so it's either one or the other. It's very black and white. Either I'm surrounded by these kids all the time that want to ask me questions, that want to tell me their stories, and don't get me wrong, I love it, but coming from the independent and individualistic environment of the Netherlands, it has been quite a switch, and it can be very tiring. But that's not even the biggest, roughness of living at this boarding school. The biggest roughness for me is to reflect upon what I know, what knowledge I already have through, pedagogic research, and through what I see as an outsider going wrong and going right. And, I interact with these kids 24/7, and I try to make them feel heard. I try to make them feel listened to. I try to make them feel valued for those who do not. Because there are kids that slip through and they don't feel valued, and it's really rough realizing that I'm gonna leave and I don't know how much I will have changed. And I get that it's very naive of me to think that I'll have any lasting impact, but I want these kids to flourish so badly, because when you get to know them, they're all lovely one by one. Even the ones that trouble the heck out of me, even the ones that are screaming, crying, punching others, like, there's all a root to it, there's a reason to it, and I want them to succeed so badly. And I'm gonna end up leaving not knowing what impact I have made, and not ever knowing how these children are gonna grow up as individuals, because it could go either way.